I'm Marisa Norcross.
And I'm Dave Freund, and this is The Next Page. Marisa, how are you today?
I am wonderful. How are you?
I'm terrific.
Oh, wow. Look at us.
Yeah, we're just a happy group of people here.
Yeah, I think by the time this episode comes out, is it September 1st?
Oh, yes. Wow. Where did summer go?
I know.
Oh. Well, we did talk just before we hit record that we're noticing that it's getting dark much earlier.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what that means?
It's almost
we're
the
that
most
much
wonderful
closer
time of
to
the
the
year.
most wonderful time of the year. And it's fall.
Yeah.
And I have a question. Do you like baseball?
I will enjoy the occasional game. Like if I'll go to the Syracuse Mets game every once in a while. And I, watch a game on TV here and there. But I am not a super fan like you.
Okay. Well, I'm not even sure I'm a super fan. I do love baseball. Love going to the Syracuse Mets. They have done an amazing job with that small ballpark. And it's just a neat experience.
Yeah.
And very affordable for families.
Very.
Compared to a major league stadium. And also the baseball game that Major League Baseball put on a few weeks back, the Field of Dreams game, was amazing. So that was, almost like a reenactment of the movie, but it was
cool.
real baseball games in Iowa. It was great.
Mm-hmm.
And so the reason why I'm talking about baseball is because the title of my post this morning was 4 outs.
Mm-hmm.
And even people that aren't baseball fans know that, Dave, there's only 3 outs.
Right. I did know that.
You don't get 4 outs per half an inning. But, so I love baseball. I used to tell people I love baseball because it's a great way to get a nap. Because, sometimes it's so relaxing that I can just doze off.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of nice in the evening, especially if my Yankees are playing on the West Coast. Or even in the Central Time Zone. And so, like, when I'm trying to fall asleep, because I can go right to sleep listening to a baseball game. But there aren't 4 outs. But in leadership, there are 4 outs. Well, maybe I should say with air quotes, leadership. So let me just jump right in. So I was reading a devotional this week, and it reminded me of something that I heard before about there's 4 kinds of people. So the first one we're going to talk about are dropouts. So I'll give you all 4. Because then if people are bored, they don't have to listen to the rest of the podcast. We have dropouts, cop-outs, holdouts, and all-outs. Those are our 4 outs.
Okay.
And this will probably be a really short podcast. Dropouts. Dropouts are leaders who quit when the going gets tough and don't take responsibility for the outcomes. And I put in here, they find all kinds of reasons why they couldn't accomplish the task and why the only reasonable answer would be to give up. And if you think about it, there's a lot of people that they quit. They just stop. All the people that come up with every reason in the world why you can't, rather than saying, how can I? So those are the dropouts. And the reason why I did put leaders in quotations, because I don't think people who are dropouts are leaders. I think they're people pretending to be leaders. And I think a lot of them are bosses, are managers, who just don't realize that leadership is transformational, and it takes us to a higher level. We work on things that will work through whatever it is that's there. We make things better for people. And what happens to your team is your team gets demoralized by the fact that you quit, and they will take their passion somewhere else. So folks that are leaders that are leading like dropouts, I'm sorry, you're not going to keep your team. And I have to say, as I've looked at organizations and become more familiar with a variety of companies, there's a lot of companies that are being led by dropouts. Now, they don't need to stay there. They just need to figure out what is it that's causing them to not It's a lack of courage. It's a lack of inner strength. And if they will just focus on developing that courage, developing that inner strength, getting back to what we talked about last week, what's your vision? What's the reason behind what you do? They can work out of it. Then the second out of my 4 outs are the cop-outs. These are the ones, they don't quit, but they don't take ownership for what happens. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, if they ever fail, there's a reason why, and it's never their fault. And somebody's to say, well, Dave, come on, are there really people like that? So think about this. How many people blame the success of their business or success or lack thereof on the economy? Well, we couldn't do this because of the economy. That would be like those of us at MACNY saying, well, sorry, we couldn't do training because of COVID. Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Oh, did I just use that word? Wow.
It always shocks me when you say it.
Because you and I had a pact where we were not going to use that word, but I just did. But we actually realized that we weren't going to use that as an excuse. As an organization, we were going to use that as a reason to serve our members, which we did. And, our training revenues were great. So how many virtual events did we do last year?
That's a really good question.
Ballpark.
Several hundred.
But
hundreds.
How many?
Hundreds. Probably.
Hundreds. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot.
And so what did we, and you're intimately involved with this going forward. So in this new year, what are we doing with our newly found reality of virtual?
I think we're just continuing to offer virtual options. And I think this year we're really looking to elevate the experience and make it
exactly
not something that we're doing out of necessity, but something that we're trying to make like a real valuable offering.
Right. Thank you. And I know I put you on the spot, but you're the person that's really spearheading this, where we're planning and we have people that are responsible for, I'm responsible for 4 specific events in the coming year. Mm-hmm. And these are not things that are revenue generators. These are things that add value to our members, using what we learned, trying to, make that a better experience, more content, greater value, greater service. But we could have easily said, you know what, we just can't. No, sorry. That's not what we do. And some of the stuff we did was not the best quality, but it was what we could do at the time. Mm-hmm. I think you mentioned to me looking at some videos that we had done a year ago, and it was like, well, it was okay, but boy, we couldn't get away with that now. No, because we've raised the standard, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Cop-outs would have just said, it's not our fault. Let's just go back to what we always did. And then the third out, which typically would be the end of the podcast, but we know we have 4, so stay tuned just a little bit longer. Holdouts. These are those folks who wait too long to act. They have analysis paralysis. Mm-hmm. Like they can't make a decision because, well, they don't have all the facts. Well, we're not sure what the economy is going to do. Well, we're not sure. It's kind of like, in an election year, we're not sure who's going to win the election. Well, are you not sure you're going to be here? Make a decision. Mm-hmm. Do something. And what happens is that this is very similar to our other 2. You're going to lose your team if you can't make a decision. Mm-hmm. Because they want to go places. They want to do something. And then the other thing that's even, I don't want to say more tragic, but equally tragic, because there's nothing more tragic than having your best and brightest folks go somewhere else, is you've missed the opportunity.
Right.
It's like the person that figured out how to make masks after, the demand for the masks had reduced. Now we know we have a demand for masks again, but my point is you have to seize the opportunity when it's there because it will be gone quickly. You don't want to be a Me Too organization. So you need to find, you need to seize those moments. I think it was, who was it this was advice that I got from my dad once. When I was a young manager, he said, a good manager makes the right decision 51% of the time. I'm like, whoa, that means it's wrong 49% of the time. Well, if I go back to my baseball analogy, if I can hit the ball 1/3 of the time, I'm in the Hall of Fame. If that's my career batting average. So do it. Try. And so part of it is too, what we have to realize is that when we make a mistake, we learn from it and we fail forward.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason to be the cop-out or the holdout. Just do it and learn from it. Paul Martinelli, who was the president of the John Maxwell team, and really he was the brains behind putting it together and then convinced John Maxwell to go along with it. But Paul had, and I forgot how he phrased it, but it was, you have an idea, you enter the market with it, you fail, you learn from it, you adjust, and you re-enter.
Mm-hmm.
And it just is this beautiful cycle, of trying it, failing, learning, re-entering. That's the best way to do it. So those are our holdouts. Then we get to our all-outs. These are the real leaders. These are the folks that own the job and the responsibility that leading requires. They're all in. They always find a way to push through the noise to do what's required. They're not taking polls. They're not trying to figure out what other people are thinking. They're saying, we know our vision, we know what we need to do, and I'm all out and I'm going to do it. I might die trying, but I'm going to do it. And these folks are really inspirational. And what happens is their courage is rewarded by a team that's really that's energized, that has conviction, that's really going to the next level. And the nice part is, again, they're leading from they're failing forward. They're learning that each setback is just a new thing that they can conquer, that they can have victory over, and their teams get super excited about it because it's interesting. And I'll share this. I don't know if I shared this on a podcast. Did I ever share on a podcast the story of the guy that came up with the putting the Chick-fil-A thing at the football game where he was going to give everybody the cows?
Yes, and didn't they throw them onto the field?
Right, and so and so they were all upset. They were all upset that this is a Jeff Henderson story. And Jeff said, the fans were all upset that their team, who had been behind, was now making progress and that was held back with a penalty, and they started throwing their cows onto the field. And he thought he just was watching his career go right down the tubes before his eyes. Even the announcers said, well, I wonder who the smart person was that came up with that one, because they're going to be looking for work. And when the game was over, he saw his boss walking toward him. And he said he was just waiting for it. And his boss just said, Jeff, how are we going to get people to throw those on the field next year? Because the entire time people were throwing cows on the field, Chick-fil-A was being talked about.
Mm-hmm.
So the next year, all the cows had parachutes, and they dropped them from the higher portions of the stadium.
Yeah.
So that's what all-out leaders do. They find ways to make it a win. And Jeff's boss was an all-out leader.
Mm-hmm.
And he knew that Jeff was an all-out person. So 4 outs, dropouts, cop-outs, holdouts, they're pretend leaders.
Mm-hmm.
The all-outs, they are the leaders. That's it.
But those first 3, the dropouts, cop-outs, and holdouts, can transform into all-outs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All of them can end up being all-outs. And it comes down to desire.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to do it? And getting back to what we talked about last week, your vision. If your vision is strong enough, I don't think you'll be a dropout, cop-out, or a holdout. Because there will be a compelling reason to be an all-out.
Yeah.
You want to know what we're talking about next week, don't you?
That was my next question.
I have no clue. But I will tell people this, that between now and when we record again, I will be at an in-person Maxwell event in Orlando, and I know I will have some inspiration.
Looking forward to hearing about it.
I will probably have weeks worth of inspiration that I'm going to be getting in those 3 days.
Lots of content.
Lots of content. So I will make sure that you hear about it first.
Can't wait.
And then we'll share it with our listeners. Any special plans for the weekend?
Nope. No, not really. How about you?
Getting ready to fly to Orlando, something I have not done in 2 years. So,
well, safe travels.
Thank you. I know. Safe travel. Stay healthy. Sanitize. Wear a mask when needed. Right?
Yep.
And I'll be back soon. So with that, I'm Dave Freund.
I'm Marisa Norcross.
And this was The Next Page.